Stop. Before you watch another second, you need to know this. 50 pages leaked last week. What's inside could end NASA as we know it. Not from budget cuts, not from another Challenger disaster, but from something far more calculated. A billionaire's blueprint to dismantle 66 years of American space exploration, and nobody was supposed to see it. This is Project Athena, and this is the story they didn't want told. December 2024, the announcement came quietly. President Trump nominates Jared Isaacman as the next NASA administrator. Who is Jared Isaacman? Not a scientist, not an astronaut in the traditional sense. He's a billionaire who made his fortune in payment processing. Yes, he's been to space, twice, but here's the catch. Both times on SpaceX rockets, both times paying Elon Musk's company millions of dollars. The connection runs deep. His spacesuits? SpaceX design. His training? SpaceX facility. His launch provider? SpaceX. Every time. And now this man, with these ties, is nominated to lead the agency that's supposed to compete with SpaceX. If that sounds like a conflict of interest, wait until you hear what he's planning. May 2025, while Washington debated his confirmation, Isaacman's team was already at work, writing, planning, strategizing. The result? 50 pages that would change everything. Typewriter sound effect with each word. Title: Project Athena. Named after the Greek goddess of warfare and strategy. Not wisdom, not exploration. Warfare. Last week, someone inside leaked it, and what's written inside reads like a corporate hostile takeover. Let me read you the actual priorities. Point 1. Every NASA program will undergo zero-based review. Translation? Nothing is safe. Programs that have been running since the Apollo era could be canceled with a signature, no grandfather clauses, no legacy protections. Point 2. Move away from decadal survey guidance. For those who don't know, decadal surveys are how scientists have determined space priorities for decades. Hundreds of experts, peer-reviewed research, years of deliberation. Isaacman's plan? Abolish them. Replace decades of scientific consensus with executive decisions. Point 3, and here's where it gets truly bizarre. Universities should leverage endowment funds for space science missions. Let me say that again. Harvard's endowment? $40 billion donated for student scholarships and research. Isaacman wants them to spend it building satellites.
Yale's endowment? $41 billion for spacecraft.
These funds were donated by alumni for education, not for launching probes to Jupiter. And point 4, the nuclear option. Terminate the space launch system. $23 billion spent. Over 15 years of development. The most powerful rocket since the Saturn V, the centerpiece of America's return to the moon. Isaacman's verdict: wasteful, inefficient, expendable. The document doesn't just propose changes, it proposes demolition. Inside NASA, the leaks sent shockwaves. Let me introduce you to someone. We'll call her Dr. Sarah Chen. That's not her real name. She asked to remain anonymous because she fears for her job. Dr. Chen has worked at NASA for 32 years. She was part of the team that fixed Hubble. She helped design instruments for the Mars Curiosity rover. She's currently working on the Mars Sample Return mission. Last week, she received an email. Subject line: Mandatory Town Hall Project Future. At that meeting, a mid-level administrator explained that organizational efficiency reviews would begin immediately. Every program, every position, everything on the table. Dr. Chen told me I've survived budget cuts before. I survived the shuttle retirement, but this feels different. This feels like they're trying to erase us. She's not alone. 18,412 people work directly for NASA, each one with a family, a mortgage, children in college, elderly parents depending on them. From Houston to Cape Canaveral to Pasadena, entire communities built around space exploration, and all of them asking the same question: will we survive this? But there's a problem with Isaacman's plan, a $10 billion problem. In October 2025, Congress passed legislation, bipartisan legislation, mandating $10 billion in spending over the next 4 years, specifically for the Space Launch System, specifically for the Gateway Lunar Station. The programs Isaacman wants to kill, Congress just guaranteed their funding. This isn't just a policy disagreement. This is a constitutional crisis waiting to happen. Who controls NASA, the administrator, or Congress? Bill Nye, yes, the science guy, now 70 years old, weighed in publicly. We applaud innovation. Nuclear propulsion? Fantastic. Streamlining bureaucracy? Overdue. But this? This isn't reform, this is ideology masquerading as efficiency. Casey Dreyer from the Planetary Society was more blunt. Asking universities to fund space missions from their endowments isn't just unrealistic, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how science works. Let's talk about what we're really discussing here. NASA is more than an agency. For many of you watching this, NASA represents something profound. You remember where you were when Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon, you watched the shuttle launches, you cried when Challenger exploded. NASA isn't just about rockets and robots, it's about what we, as a civilization, choose to value. This image, taken by the James Webb Space Telescope, it shows galaxies that existed when the universe was only a few 100 million years old. Light that traveled for over 13 billion years to reach us. $10 billion, 25 years of development, countless careers. Why? Because some questions are worth asking, even if the answers take a generation to find. Isaacman's philosophy is different. In an interview, he said, if the private sector can do it faster and cheaper, why shouldn't they? It's a fair question. SpaceX has revolutionized launch costs. Blue Origin is innovating too. Private space companies have their place. But here's what they don't tell you. SpaceX didn't invent rockets in a vacuum. Their technology builds on decades of NASA research. NASA contracts kept them alive when they nearly went bankrupt. Government funding made them possible. The Artemis program plans to land the first woman on the moon, the first person of color, in 2028 if funding continues. But it's more than a landing. It's about inspiration, about showing the next generation that science matters, that exploration matters, that some things are worth doing, not because they're profitable, but because they're profound. Remember, after Challenger, NASA was accused of moving too fast, of cutting corners, of ignoring safety for schedule. 7 people died. After Columbia, the same accusations, the same tragic result. 7 more deaths. NASA learned from those disasters. They built oversight systems, safety protocols. Yes, they slow things down. Yes, they cost money, but they save lives. Project Athena criticizes risk-averse culture and excessive oversight. Those aren't bugs, they're features, paid for in blood. This is Earthrise, December 1968, Apollo 8. The first time humans saw their home planet from another world. This photograph changed history. It launched the environmental movement. It made us realize how small we are, how fragile our world is, how much we share. No corporation would have funded Apollo 8, the return on investment? 0, the scientific value, immeasurable. Today we're at a crossroads. Who owns space? Does it belong to humanity, represented by agencies answerable to the public? Or does it belong to whoever can afford a rocket? When Neil Armstrong planted this flag in 1969, he didn't do it for a company. He did it for a country, for a species. His words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," weren't marketing copy.
They were a promise that we would explore space together, as humans, not as customers.
Project Athena has been leaked, the debate is now public, and it needs to be, because this isn't about budget spreadsheets or organizational charts. It's about what kind of future we want. Isaacman's confirmation hearings are coming, Congress will vote, scientists will testify, and the public, that's you, will have a say. This story is just beginning. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what happens in the coming weeks will determine whether NASA survives as a public institution or becomes a footnote in the history of privatization. Don't let this decision happen in the shadows. Share this video, talk about it, let your representatives know that space belongs to all of us. Next week, we'll cover the congressional response and what NASA employees are doing to fight back. Until then, stay curious, stay critical, and stay engaged. The future of space exploration is being decided right now. Make sure your voice is heard.